Welcome back, history lovers. Tonight, we travel back 500 years to uncover one of the strangest, most unsettling portraits ever painted. You may have seen her face before. Bulging jaw, sagging chest, and eyes that stare into the distance with a mixture of pride and bitterness. She is known to the world as the Ugly Duchess. But who was she really? Was this an actual noblewoman immortalized in cruel caricature? Or was she a satirical creation? A warning about vanity and the fleeting nature of beauty. Stay with us because her story will take us deep into the heart of the Renaissance, into a world of ambition, disease, wealth, and art that dared to challenge society's deepest beliefs. If you enjoy journeys into the past, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. It helps bring forgotten stories like this one back to life. It is the year 1530. In the Flemish city of Antwerp, the bustling heart of trade and art in Northern Europe, an artist named Quentin Matsys places the final brushstroke on a portrait that will outlive him by centuries. The subject? An elderly woman, dressed not in the modest attire befitting her age, but in the fashion of a young noble bride, low-cut gown, elaborate headdress, and an expression of stern defiance. Her features are shocking. A heavy jaw, nose distorted, lips pulled back. Her chest sags heavily, but is brazenly exposed. Matsys seems to mock her attempt to cling to youth, presenting not just a portrait, but a statement. This work would later be called the Ugly Duchess. Today it hangs in the National Gallery in London, still mesmerizing, still disturbing, still raising the same question. Who was this woman? To understand the Ugly Duchess, we must first understand the man who painted her. Quentin Matsys, born around 1466 in Leuven, modern-day Belgium, was originally trained as a blacksmith. Legend says he abandoned metalwork for painting after falling in love with a painter's daughter. If he could not forge iron, he would forge beauty on canvas. By the early 1500s, Matsys had risen to prominence in Antwerp. His style blended Flemish precision. Every wrinkle, every thread of fabric rendered with microscopic detail, with the humanist influence of the Italian Renaissance. But Matsys was also satirical. He wasn't afraid to mock greed, lust, or vanity. His paintings often carried moral lessons disguised beneath grotesque humor. And in The Ugly Duchess, he seems to have created the ultimate satire of aging vanity. Was the Ugly Duchess a real woman? Or was she a fantasy? Some scholars believe she suffered from Paget's disease of bone, a condition where the bones grow large, thick, and misshapen, often causing facial distortion. If true, then Matsys may have immortalized a real noblewoman afflicted by illness. Others argue the painting is pure caricature, part of a diptych alongside another Matsys' work, depicting an old man leering with lust. Together, they formed a mocking commentary on human folly, the foolish old woman seeking youth and beauty, and the foolish old man chasing lust. Whichever the truth, the Duchess' face became unforgettable, not for beauty, but for its power to shock and provoke. To see why this portrait was so shocking, we must remember the Renaissance obsession with beauty. In early 16th century Europe, beauty was more than appearance. It was tied to morality, to virtue, even to political power. A beautiful noblewoman was considered not just pleasing to the eye, but a reflection of her family's honor and God's favor. The Ugly Duchess, in contrast, tears this ideal apart. She is dressed like a young bride, but her body betrays her age. She tries to project youth, but Matsys reveals only decay. The message is brutal. Vanity cannot defeat time. Imagine the impact on Renaissance viewers. A world where portraits were meant to glorify, flatter, and immortalize beauty. And suddenly, here is a painting that exposes ugliness in excruciating detail. The influence of the Ugly Duchess did not stop in the 16th century. Centuries later, her face would inspire one of the most famous characters in English literature. When John Tenniel illustrated Lewis Carroll's Alice's Adventures in Wonderland, in 1865. He created the Duchess, a grotesque, comical noblewoman with a sharp chin, exaggerated features, and a strange air of self-importance. Art historians believe Tenniel was directly inspired by Matsys's painting. And so, the Ugly Duchess. The Renaissance was not just a rebirth of art and science. It was also an age of fear. Fear of disease, deformity, and the uncontrollable forces that shaped the human body. Syphilis, known at the time as the Great Pox, was sweeping through Europe. Plague outbreaks still struck cities without warning. Skin diseases, tumors, and bone disorders were common and poorly understood. When people saw someone with a disfigured body, they did not think of modern medicine. They thought of sin, divine punishment, or moral corruption. Appearance and morality were seen as deeply connected. In this world, a portrait like the Ugly Duchess was not just grotesque, it was terrifying. It seemed to embody what every noble feared: the loss of beauty, the onset of disease, the collapse of dignity. Medical historians have studied the Duchess' features with fascination. The bulging jaw, the elongated face, the heavy nose, and the misshapen chest. These are classic signs of Paget's disease of bone, discovered centuries later by Sir James Paget in 1877. This disease causes abnormal bone growth, often leading to deformity in the skull, face, and limbs. Some patients develop large jaws and thickened skulls, giving them the same unsettling features that Matsys has captured. Could it be that Matsys has painted a real noblewoman with this disease? Perhaps she commissioned the portrait herself, wanting to appear grand despite her appearance. Or perhaps Matsys has encountered her in Antwerp society and decided to immortalize her for other reasons. If this theory is true, then the Ugly Duchess is more than satire. It is one of the earliest known depictions of Paget's disease in art, a medical document hidden inside a painting, but not all scholars agree. Some argue Matsys was not painting a real woman at all. Instead, he was mocking the vanity of old age. In Renaissance art, satire was everywhere. Writers like Erasmus mocked corruption in the church. Caricatures circulated through woodcuts, poking fun at greedy merchants, foolish nobles, or lustful monks. Matsys may have been doing the same, painting an imaginary old woman who still dressed as though she were 20. Her exposed breasts, her elaborate headgear, her prideful gaze, all would have been read as comedy to a Renaissance audience. And remember, this painting was often paired with another, a portrait of a lecherous old man, grinning with yellowed teeth as he eyes a young woman. Together, they form a lesson. Age cannot cheat time, and lust will always make a fool of men. To fully understand the Duchess, we must consider the role of women in Renaissance Europe. A noblewoman's worth was tied to her beauty, her fertility, and her ability to form alliances through marriage. Cosmetics, perfumes, and elaborate gowns were not just luxuries. They were tools of survival in a patriarchal world. But with age, women lost their power. A widow without beauty or wealth could easily become invisible in society. The Duchess, whether real or imagined, challenges this. She clings to the costume of youth, even flaunts her body despite its decay. To Renaissance viewers, this was comic, but also threatening. A woman who refused to accept her decline was seen as unnatural, even monstrous. In art history, the grotesque often serves a moral function. By exaggerating ugliness, the artist forces the viewer to reflect on their own flaws. The Duchess' wrinkles are not softened. Her skin sags without mercy. The pearls and fabrics she wears look absurd against her withered body. It is as if Matsys is shouting to his audience. This is what happens when vanity defeats reason. And yet, look closer. Her gaze is not entirely ridiculous. There is pride there, determination, even dignity. She refuses to lower her eyes. This is what makes the painting so powerful. Is she a joke? Or is she a tragic figure, defying a world that mocks her? The answer may lie somewhere in between. Antwerp in the early 1500s was a city of wealth. Merchants traded silk, gold, and spices from across the world. Nobles paraded in their finest clothing. But behind the glitter was rot, debt, disease, corruption, and moral decay. The Duchess may have been a satirical reflection of this society. A world that pretended to be youthful and strong, but was secretly aging, diseased, and fragile. Just as the woman hides behind jewels and fashion, so too did the nobility hide behind feasts and pageantry. Matsys, the blacksmith-turned-painter, was not afraid to expose this hypocrisy on canvas. Centuries passed. The Duchess' face did not fade. In fact, she seemed to grow stronger with time. In the 19th century, when art historians walk into the National Gallery in London today, and you will see her still. The same stern gaze, the same elaborate headdress, the same defiance. She is not forgotten. She has outlived her painter, outlived the nobles who once mocked her, outlived the generations who laughed at her. In the end, the Ugly Duchess triumphed. She became immortal, not because she was beautiful, but because she was unforgettable. And perhaps that is the final irony. The woman painted to embody ugliness became one of the most enduring faces of the Renaissance. So next time you pass her portrait, do not laugh. Instead, look into her eyes. See the pride, the pain, and the story of a woman who refused to disappear. That is the true power of art, to turn mockery into memory, and a fleeting face into legend. If you enjoyed uncovering this strange and powerful story from history, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more journeys into the past. History is not just about kings and queens, but about the forgotten faces, the ones who still have something to say, even across 500 years.